Bell Time by Sophie Tuvey, Chapter 2. I retrieved my Little Miss Sunshine mug from its secret hiding place in the filing cabinet. Side note, we teachers are the worst for borrowing things and never giving them back, then normalising our behaviour, then justifying it. And now, even as an English teacher, I'm not even sure I could give you anything close to a dictionary definition of theft. The cabinets in the staff room are never opened by any of us, so it's a good bonus storage space which I'm borrowing. I grab a tea bag and fill the cup while others bustle around, stocking up the fridge with cartons of milk and lunch boxes, some of which probably have padlocks on. It's always lovely to see everyone again and catch up after 6 weeks of holidays, lie-ins, day trips, and trying to avoid thinking about school in any way, shape or form. Jen! My best friend Steph, pushing the staff training smart casual dress code to the limit, with flip-flops and a bright pink sundress, squishes me in a warm hug as I try to put my tea down to avoid spilling it everywhere. Steph, I loved all your photos. I'm so jealous. She looks fantastic as always, with her shining brown eyes and pixie haircut. Her rich brown skin exudes sunshine. She evaluates me with a frown. Jen, you've got to start travelling more. You should have come with me. I stir my tea bag round the mug. I'd decided that I needed to save and write, not spend a load of cash on expensive flights. But now I'm wondering if I made the right choice. The school year's starting again, and summer's the best opportunity to travel. Maybe next year. Something else to add to my list. Ignoring the niggle of self-doubt, I grab my small bottle of labelled milk from the fridge, already crowded enough that moving one thing makes the whole shelf wobble. How's your writing? At least I have good news on that. I finished my first draft. I can't help the smug smile. I've been talking about my story to Steph for months. Awesome. When am I going to see it on Amazon? I roll my eyes. When you've set me up a crowdfunder and made a generous donation. It would be great if someone decided to foot the bill so that my Alice in Wonderland mashup with an assassin who falls in love with her target could be enjoyed by more people than just me. Quick, the new head's about to make a speech. Sue from the maths department hisses at us through the doorway. Can't even finish a conversation, let alone a novel. I dump the tea bag in the bin and hurry into the seating area. Good morning, everyone. The crisp tones of Janet Patchell, deputy head, cut through the murmuring chatter. She's wearing her familiar blue two-piece suit. I'd like to hand over to our new head, David Clark. Thank you, Janet. I look at his familiar snake oil salesman smile and try not to frown too severely. It's been 8 years, but he hasn't changed a bit. He's impossibly young to be a head. He's barely 10 years older than me, and there's something desperately teenage about his dark hair waxed into position, clean-shaven jaw and smooth cheeks. It suddenly feels like I'm 17 again, sitting in the history classroom with the wet behind the ears teacher training version of David Clark, shuffling his papers and reading out my notes on the French Revolution. Same smarmy hair, probably a cheaper brand of wax than his executive head salary would afford him now. I remember he played us some clips from the History Channel, and I could tell he'd never studied the topic because he kept getting the dates mixed up and forgetting one of the 3 core values. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Come on, David, this is on the pub quiz syllabus, never mind the bachelor's degree. There was actually a 4th value, death. I wrote about it in an essay, which I found photocopied as a handout a few years later. He'd been using it with all his GCSE classes. Only instead of my name at the top, it was his. Now he's here to save my school, and he's packing double the wax. Widlock County is a school that's always been close to my heart. I came here as a pupil, and in my first teaching post before I moved to Castley High. When I heard the school was struggling and in danger of closing, I knew it was time for me to give something back. My eyes roll before I can even stop them, and they're twitching for a few more laps, held back only by some extreme mental discipline that Darren Brown would be proud of. It would have been great if he had just done his job properly when he was here as a teacher 10 years ago, rather than painting himself as the saviour now. I've been sent here by our regional consortium, Inspire to Achieve, along with a few of my hand-picked lead-in practitioners, Joseph Vermont to work in the maths department and Michael Chase to work in the English department. I was right. Michael is another sharp-suited professional sent by the consultants who earn more than 3 average staff put together. Only this time he's going to be in the same department as me. Joseph and Michael step forward to flank David. The 3 of them together look like they're posing for a Gillette commercial. I wouldn't be surprised if they all had matching cufflinks with the Inspire to Achieve logo branded on them. I stifle a snort, making a slight sound. Michael stares at me, and I look away quickly. Those razor eyes look like they could read minds. I need to keep my imagination on a tighter leash. We are here to raise standards, David continues, in a tone that initially sounds collaborative, but which rapidly solidifies into the kind of top-down collaboration constructed from reinforced concrete. Tyranny. We all know a new approach is necessary. I might make decisions that you don't like, but I ask for you to keep an open mind. After all, we all want the same thing. I catch Steph's eye. She raises an eyebrow. When the motivational, at times threatening, address is over, I stumble my way forwards, thinking it's best to get the first meeting over with. I mean, it might be awkward, but I need to be friendly and hopefully we can put the past behind us. He was a newly qualified teacher. He must have improved, otherwise he wouldn't be a super executive head being paid an eye-watering salary. David is talking in a low voice with Michael when I approach, smiling in what I hope is a "let's make a fresh start" expression. When he notices me, a flash of recognition changes his face, and he stiffens, standing taller. My smile falters. "Just wanted to say hello," I say quickly, hoping to cover over the awkwardness. "How welcoming," he says, extending a hand. "What's your name?" Now, I've had my share of bumping into ex-students unexpectedly, even just in the last 2 years when they look totally different to their 16-year-old self. Girls perhaps can transform the most radically with hair colour and style, weight loss or gain, and the power of makeup. But I'm not a transformer. I find photos of myself in school and I look almost exactly the same now. Plus, I was one of a small minority of kids with an afro. I also think it's fair to say that I wasn't a wallflower. I was on every committee that the school could possibly invent. Allotment committee, fair trade committee, the committee's approval committee. I'm also the one whose mum died, which seems to be another of my distinguishing features. No, he remembers me. Short of him presenting a medical certificate certifying amnesia, and caused by something even more violent than sustained application of hair wax, I know he's lying through his shiny teeth. I blink as I take his slippery, lukewarm hand. His grip is just slightly tighter than comfortable. "This is Jennifer," Michael breaks in. "She's in my department." Like he owns it. I turn my frown upon him and withdraw my hand from David's grip. "What was your surname? I don't think I caught it," Michael adds. "Baker," I say, with a meaningful stare at David, who still gives me a politely bemused "I don't know you" look in return. "You taught me. A-level history, the French Revolution module, liberty, equality, fraternity, and death." I know he read out my essay enough to probably have memorised it, so I'm not buying his act one bit. "Oh, really?" He gives a tone of fake surprise. "How strange. I can't remember you at all." I give a bark of laughter. "I suppose you must have taught so many students over the years," I say, with an understanding smile. "It's funny, I can't actually remember what you taught me, just that you were my teacher." I walk away and feel both of them glaring at my back. When all of the boring or terrifying presentations have been given by various members of senior management, safeguarding, trips, pastoral care structure, behavioural policy, and we've eaten our free lunch, chicken curry, it's finally time to sit down in the department with a cup of tea, packet of biscuits, and chat about what we're actually meant to be teaching when the kids come in tomorrow. Jeff heads up the table with his usual checked shirt and jeans, standard first day back. He's got one of those awful clinical grey diaries and scrawls in it using a black rollerball pen. Next to him is Judy, looking majestically unfazed as usual, with her black and pink silk scarf and dyed black hair. She's in her early 60s and she's part-time. Liz is sat 2 seats away from anyone else, her hair ironed flat and her fake nails tapping the desk impatiently. She's been the second in department for years and is quite happy doing as little as possible and disappearing when the bell goes. Michael sits, his back poker straight and a black organiser open in front of him. Using an expensive silver pen, he forms his letters precisely without loops and flair. His page is neater than a printed handout, and if it were a font, it would be Times New Roman. Whereas my scrawl looks more intelligent than Comic Sans, but only just. I pull out my flower pattern diary and fish in my bag for a pen, then remember I stuck it under my headband earlier. I pull out the biro and click it, trying to look ready to make notes. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Michael roll his eyes. "Welcome back, everyone," Jeff begins. There's a slight hesitancy in his voice. "I'd like to welcome Michael into the department." He gives a curt nod, his pen hovering over the page impatiently. "I've got copies of your finalised timetables." Jeff passes round sheets of paper, the black grids just waiting to be colour-coded. "Where are my highlighters?" "We had to make a few changes." I cast my eye over the class codes. Jeff had already spoken to me in the summer about which classes I was taking, the usual Year 7, 8 and 9 and my exam classes. I'm excited about piloting a small group of Year 10 students from the Additional Learning Needs Register, students I mentored last year. Then I notice a code I don't recognise. "What's 11B?" I ask. At the same time, Michael says, "What's 10F?" I look at him. "That's my mentor group. It must be a mistake. You're not supposed to have them." 11B is my group. I asked for a group of boys who are borderline D to C grade. We both look at Jeff, who coughs awkwardly. "Well, there was a bit of a clash, so we had to do a few swaps here and there." "Who's in the boys group?" I ask immediately. With a flip of his organiser, Michael begins reading out a list of the worst behaved boys in the school. I groan. "What's this mentor group?" he asks. "It's a nurturing environment for students with ALN." Michael's nostrils flare slightly. "Let's discuss timetables later," Jeff intervenes hurriedly before Michael can kick up a fuss. "We need to look at the curriculum." Jeff goes through the different topics for the term and the schemes of work, while Liz looks out of the window and I start doodling in my notebook. It's all quite familiar to me now. I'm trying not to let the thought of an all-boy class terrify me, especially one that make Goldie-looking chains seem like prep schoolers. "Anyone want to share any resources that might help us kick off the new term with a bang?" Jeff's voice breaks into my thoughts. My brain's still in summer mode. I struggle to locate my archive file in my memory. "I've got something." Michael jumps up and puts a USB stick from his keyring into the computer. He opens the folder to reveal hundreds of folders all meticulously labelled. My jaw nearly drops. How can anyone be that organised? He opens up a PowerPoint and there's a 3x3 grid with letters in each square. It's called Bell Time. It's basically the game Boggle, rebranded to be a teacher's starter when you don't know what else to do at the beginning of the lesson while Riley's still kicking a football around the yard but Keen Bean Ben is sitting waiting for the lesson to start. Students make as many words as they can from the letters. I run a competition and see who's got the highest number by the end of the week. Boys love it. He looks at me pointedly when he says this, as if he wants to give me some tips. "Thanks, Michael, that's great," Jeff says. He's still holding something back. He takes a deep breath. "Well, there's something I need to tell you all. As you know, last year I was temporarily seconded to the senior leadership team when Janet was promoted to deputy. David has negotiated with the governors to create a permanent assistant head position, and he very much wants to give this role to me, which I didn't expect." "That's really exciting, Jeff," I smile. He's been a seriously great boss. I'm not surprised at all that David wants him on leadership. "Thanks, Jen," he says. "I'm just a bit sad to be less involved with the department." "What do you mean?" "I can't do the head of department role and this senior responsibility at the same time. Whilst I was seconded, I've been doing both, but it'll be a relief to just focus on the one job and do it properly. I've still got to go through the formality of an interview for the position, and they may get other applicants, but I wanted to tell you now to give you a heads up. David wants to appoint a new HOD, and I expect he'll want to work closely with you, Liz, to help manage the transition." Liz's face turns a shade of deep purple. I think she's forgotten to breathe. "We've got a few weeks before it all takes effect. Jeff continues, so let's focus on starting the term as we mean to go on. I exchange a worried look with Judy. Liz helping to manage the transition. That would involve her actually doing something besides chain smoking and eating Haribo. The sooner they can recruit someone, the better. Then I catch a glimpse of Michael's face. He's not surprised to hear any of this, and he's underlining a note in his diary with a smug smile. My eyes narrow and I highlight my timetable with the same force I would use to restrain Year 9 from leaving early on a Tuesday afternoon. The positivity of the cat poster is already a distant memory, and I've been here less than 24 hours. This does not bode well.